All right, everybody, thanks for bearing with us. A slight delay there. This is a regular meeting of the Town Council of the Township of Montclair and is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live on Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It is available on demand. It can be seen, and it will be rebroadcast. This is called pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act. This meeting was included in the revised annual notice of the meeting schedule set forth in Resolution R-24-18, adopted by the Township Council as conference meeting of April 24th, 2024, advertised in the official newspaper on May 9th, 2024, posted on the bulletin boards outside the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted there. In addition, a copy of the revised annual notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Township Clerk. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move the agenda with flexibility. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councillor Cummings.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Councillor Price Abrams.
Present.
Councillor Russo absent. Councillor Schlager.
Here.
Councillor Terry.
Here.
Mayor Spiller.
Present. Next, we've got approval of minutes. There have been presented the council minutes of April 24th, 2024, the executive session minutes for council meetings of May 16th, 2023, June 13th, 2023, July 18th, 2023, September 26th, 2023, November 13th, 2023, November 21st, 2023, December 19th, 2023, January 2nd, 2024, February 13th, 2024, February 27th, March 12th, April 10th, and April 24th, 2024, and I so move.
Second.
Any corrections, modifications? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. We've got this. Next, we've got a proclamation. Councilman Terry, if you don't mind, first proclamation.
Yes, no problem. Good evening, everyone. And it's ironic.
Good evening, everyone.
It's ironic they give me the one with the older American right here. That's okay, though. That's okay. Every May, Montclair has the opportunity to celebrate both its economic and age diversity by honoring Older American Month. And whereas the federal government theme for our 2024 Older Americans Month is Power by Connection, and whereas 2024 is the year when the older citizens of Montclair will have a physical senior center, the hub for modern aging at 60 South Fullerton Avenue, where the community interactions can be reinforced. And whereas in 2024, Montclair has affirmed its commitment to funding the center, where profound, meaningful relationships and social connections can be forged by all of our township older residents. Now and therefore, the mayor and the council of the Township of Montclair do hereby proclaim May is Older Americans Month, and we urge every resident to celebrate our older citizens, help to create an inclusive society, and accept the challenges and flexibility thinking around the aging. Yes.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Next, can I ask Councilwoman Schlager, would you please?
Yes. Is there anybody here to accept this, the proclamation for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month? You can, okay. How are you? Good evening. I'm happy to give this to you, present this to you on behalf of the, excuse me, the Town Council and the Mayor. The Township of Montclair is happy to recognize May as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage, AAPI month, originated in a congressional bill in June of 1977. On March 28, 1979, President Carter issued Presidential Proclamation 4650 proclaiming the week beginning on May 4th, 1979, as Asian Pacific American Heritage Week. And since then, it has been expanded to a month-long celebration. And in 1992, and whereas in the years and decades that followed, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have become one of the fastest growing racial and ethnic groups in the nation, representing a multitude of ethnicities, languages, and experience that enrich and strengthen our community. Whereas this month we recognize the varied contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to our country, including completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, we recognize painful chapters in our history, like the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II. Whereas other notable individuals have made an impact on this community, including Sammy Lee, the first Asian American to win Olympic gold for the U.S., the first man to win consecutive gold in the Olympic platform diving, James Von Jim Park, a Major League Baseball pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, and Watru Wat Masaka, who broke the color barrier in pro basketball by being the first player of Asian descent to play in the NBA. There are countless others in the U.S. House of Representatives, Civil War activists, White House staff members, and that also includes Connie Chung, the first Asian American and second woman to anchor a nightly newscast in the United States. Throughout New Jersey, people are celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month by sponsoring a variety of cultural events throughout the community, in schools, all throughout Montclair as well, including the Lantern Festival, which was last Sunday, which I happened to be at, which was wonderful and gets bigger every year. It was just terrific. The New Jersey has become the second state in the country to pass a state law requiring the contributions and history of the AAPI community to be taught in schools. New Jersey's Teach Asian American Stories initiative is credited for supporting the Montclair School District and educators across the state. Whereas the Township of Montclair is committed to fostering a community free of hate and promote belonging to all who work, live, and visit here, the Township of Montclair is proud to celebrate Asian American Heritage Month, commemorate the contributions that Asian Americans have made in Montclair. And now therefore the mayor and the council of the Township of Montclair do hereby proclaim May as the API Heritage Month. And I so move, and I'm happy to present this to you. I'm also very happy to congratulate you, Susan, on being the first Asian American town council person on July 1st. So lots of
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Price Abrams, would you please?
Good evening, everyone. Is there anyone who is here to receive the Jewish Heritage Month proclamation? And if not, I will receive it on our behalf as I read it. Whereas the first Jewish immigrants arrived on American soil in 1654, escaping oppression and discrimination, their presence, along with that of so many other immigrant groups, helped define America's promise of religious freedom while embracing democracy, individual liberty, and opportunity for all. And whereas the Jewish American experience is a quintessential American experience, one that is connected to the key tenets of American identity, including our nation's commitment to freedom of religion and conscience, and whereas notwithstanding this promise, we are still working to realize full vision of the American ideal, amid the scourges of racism, bigotry, and other forms of injustice, is included a stubborn anti-Semitism. In recent years, Jewish Americans have increasingly been the target of white nationalism and the anti-Semitic violence it fuels. And in 2021, and I would say in subsequent years, a record number of anti-Semitic incidents occurred in the state of New Jersey, according to the latest annual audit released by the Anti-Defamation League, using information from victims and law enforcement. And whereas the Jewish community has consistently overcome challenges and adversity, remaining deeply and robustly engaged on internal matters, as well as on issues facing society at large, to wit, Jewish Americans have played major roles in all aspects of society and have worked tirelessly for social justice and equal rights, often motivated by Jewish values to heal the world, locally, nationally, and globally. Jewish Americans have made significant contributions in the areas of science, the arts, literature, civic life, and law. And whereas this is true here in Montclair, where we are enriched to have 2 in-town synagogues, B'nai Keshet and Congregation Shomrei Emunah, as well as Chabad of Montclair, and 2 others as neighbors, Temple Ner Tamid and Temple Shalom, all of which serve Montclair residents and engender in their congregants a sense of spirituality and an engagement with their history and heritage to perpetuate the values of Torah. The commitments are routinely expressed by enriching the community through interethnic and interfaith collaboration and participation in initiatives to create a more just society. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Township of Montclair do hereby celebrate and recognize the contributions of the Jewish community and Jewish Americans, both in Montclair and in the wider world, and do proclaim May as Jewish Heritage Month in the Township of Montclair. I so move.
I do
Councilman
see
Terry?
some individuals from Gateway of Aging there. So can I present this to them there?
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, excellent, thank you. Next, we're going to move to some of our pending ordinances for second reading. I'm going to open the public hearing on some of these without objection. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, moving pending ordinance O-24-09, which is the ordinance to approve the redevelopment plan for Lackawanna Plaza in the Township of Montclair. I so move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. I'll open it up to public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment on this pending ordinance?
Mayor, before you do so, can I make a statement?
Sure.
As you may recall, ordinance O-24-09 was introduced on March 26, 2024. In accordance with the redevelopment law, the ordinance was referred to the planning board for
Mr. Burr, I
consistency.
think it's the air conditioner. Can you put it a little closer to you? I'm
Yeah.
having a little harder time hearing you. The AC over here is...
The ordinance was referred to the planning board for a consistency review. The redevelopment plan was reviewed by the planning board, which issued a report dated April 29, 2024, stating that the redevelopment plan was substantially inconsistent with the master plan and providing comments and recommendations relating to the redevelopment plan. The Township Council has reviewed and considered the planning board's report and recommendations contained therein. The Township Council has also reviewed and considered the following: report prepared by the Township's Director of Planning and Community Development, Janice Talley, dated May 20th, 2024. Appendix A, traffic impact study prepared by Brightview Engineering, dated January 19th, 2023, and revised February 15th, 2023. Appendix B, which is attached to Ms. Talley's report. Level G, Associates Parking Analysis, dated April 24th, 2023. Appendix C, Open Space Concept Plans. Appendix D, excerpt from the redevelopment plan regarding master plan consistency. And also the memo prepared by Naglia Engineering, dated April 19th, 2024. And further, we're in receipt of a letter from Ann Babineau, the attorney for the property owner and prospective redeveloper, BDP Lackawanna LLC, dated May 23rd, 2024. And with reviewing that, a resolution was prepared for the council to contemplate and vote on, which would clarify their position with regard to the planning board's report, which is a resolution disapproving of the recommendations contained in the planning board report dated April 29th regarding the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan, and setting forth the reasons and support for adopting the redevelopment plan, notwithstanding any alleged inconsistencies between the redevelopment plan and the township's master plan identified in the planning board's report. And I would ask, Mayor, that after comment during the public hearing, that this resolution would be moved simultaneously with the ordinance for the Lackawanna redevelopment plan.
Okay, thank you. And that's ordinance O-2409. Okay. Correct, Mr. Burr? Ordinance O-2409, correct? Mr.
Correct,
Burr?
Mayor.
Okay. Yep. Okay, excellent.
If I may.
Please,
I
Councilwoman
believe for
Christensen.
the benefit of the public, we had received one in the packet, but it was modestly amended, so there's a modestly amended version.
Correct, Councilwoman. There was a amended or revised ordinance O-2409 that was included in your packet that has non-substantive changes to it. And those changes basically address the planning board's report in the whereas clauses, and then some clarifications, and then now there it be ordained.
Right, and relating to dates perhaps when
Yes,
things had
and
taken place.
clarifications
Okay.
of dates and corrections of typos
Got it.
and thus.
Very good.
And those are non-substantive.
Thank you. Okay, so we have open hearing on O-2409 that we have right here. And of course, we'll have the subsequent additional ordinance introduced after that. Anyone wishing to be heard, please come forward.
Okay, so I'm Carmel Lockman, and I would just like to talk about this ordinance. I feel like it's a done deal, but I'm going to have my say anyway. This redevelopment plan is not ready for adoption yet. The town's appointed planning board has looked at 3 iterations over several years of the Lackawanna redevelopment plan, and I was part of that, as you were too, Robin, for some of that. In each of these reviews, the planning board has been consistent and almost unanimous in pointing out that the same deficiencies each time it reviewed the plans. The deficiencies of the planning board are: the size of the proposed development remains out of character with the neighborhood, especially the portion of the development that directly fronts on Glenridge Avenue, which is Building A, which is 87 feet, or double the size of the apartment building on the corner of Grove and Glenridge Avenue, opposite Caggiano's funeral home. The parking needs generated by the project likely cannot be fulfilled on the site, and therefore the narrow streets of the surrounding neighborhoods will have to absorb overflow parking and be adversely impacted. The proposed flow of cars and delivery trucks through the project and the proposed alterations to the current traffic flow will impact not just already congested Bloomfield Avenue, but also Elm Street, Grove Street, and Glenridge Avenue by the post office in ways that have not been sufficiently studied. Given the importance the community places on having the mandated supermarket on the site be successful over the long term, the proposed location and visibility of the supermarket and the proposed traffic flow to it are suboptimal. A better site for the supermarket is where the current TD Bank is. The project touts substantial open space, but the proponents of the plan could not identify and confirm the size and quality of the open space that actually will be available to the public. In addition, as one of the 2 Lackawanna lawsuits notes, there is the potential for severe flooding. An objective third-party engineer with specialties in hydraulics should confirm or refute the developer's plan to address the flooding problem. Unresolved, the flooding will adversely affect the neighborhood. And just an aside, it is particularly egregious that the 3 planning board reports describing these problems were never shared with the public. In my view, the planning report should have been posted online. I'm not sure how the public can get up and support this without the level of detail and information contained in the planning board reports. The problems identified by the planning board are not insurmountable, but need to be addressed before the redevelopment plan is passed. A redevelopment plan is a trade-off where each party benefits. As it is now, it cannot be proven that the tax-paying residents of Montclair are getting a fair deal, especially as the project may be subject to tax abatement under a pilot plan. I hope you will do the right thing and vote no, and allow the new council to work with redevelopers to improve the plan and resolve the 2 active lawsuits so the development can be finalized and construction can begin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and council members, thank you very much for serving. 4 years goes quickly, and Roger, thanks for stepping into the breach. My name is Scott Kennedy, and I would like to ask you to approve this program. It's come this far. You guys have all worked hard. The community has worked hard. The developers worked hard. And I think it's really time for us to move beyond this so that the people who live in the community can finally get their supermarket and we can move this on. So thank you very much. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Good evening. Ann Babineau, Wilentz, Goldman, and Spitzer. I'm here because I represent BDP. I'd like to dispel a myth, which is that this has been a negotiation between BDP and this town regarding what the redevelopment plan should say. That is a myth because I was there. I watched as Dave Plasek gave an assignment to any professional that he brought into this project. They were to adhere to the draft 2017 redevelopment plan, which had already had a lot of public input. Dave's direction to the professionals was find a way of doing a good job of implementing this plan. And architects, engineers, planners, all were brought in to do an extensive review on how it is that BDP could implement. I'm really proud to say that after all of that input, I'm here on behalf of BDP to say that BDP strongly endorses the adoption of your redevelopment plan. The structured parking, the historic element preservation, the uses, the office and the residential, the idea of structured parking enhanced this project, but also was a burden to have to plan with. We've looked at all of those elements of what was the 2017 redevelopment plan, and we embraced them. I also like to, I know a couple of questions have been raised for us as we came into this meeting. One of them was, what about this supermarket? Is it really going to be attractive, somebody in the real world? Well, I have done a certification, which I have copies of, and I'll leave with you tonight. You may have already seen it because I did it for this council as much as the planning board. It confirms that a major supermarket operator has put a lot of money at risk by signing a lease, and they are very familiar with the size of the supermarket as per your redevelopment plan, the location of the supermarket, the ingress and egress to the supermarket, the fact that there is a parking garage. They have embraced that. So if you're looking for evidence that the food supermarket is going to be feasible, we submit that certification indicating that a lease is in place with regard to the supermarket is highly important. A question has also been raised about, like, what does BDP think they can do with regard to open space? I have with me tonight, and I will leave with you, a plan that was prepared by BDP and forwarded to the township in 2023 that shows that 27% of the site will be open space. And I'm leaving that with you so that you can tell exactly what's included. One last item. A lot has been made about the size of the building as it faces Glen Ridge. I'm going to leave with you a picture of the height and proximity to Glen Ridge of the Midtown parking garage, which is 2 blocks away along Glen Ridge, as well as another brand-new building at 172 Glen Ridge, both of which are coming right up close to the street. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bill Stein. I have been a resident of Montclair for over 30 years. I'm also one of the architects working with BDP on the Lackawanna project. I believe that this redevelopment plan is in the best interests of our town. Redevelopment of the Lackawanna site will result in significant community benefits such as public open space, preservation of historic resources, commercial and retail development, including a supermarket, and new housing, including much-needed workforce housing. This redevelopment plan will support the vitality and sustainability of Montclair into the future. I urge you to vote in favor of the Lackawanna redevelopment plan. Thank you.
Hello, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kevin Dyer. I'm a lifelong resident of Montclair and a strong proponent of the Lackawanna proposal. As a member of the Gen Z generation, our generation has been devastated by the effects of rampant housing unaffordability, and this project, as it stands, currently sets aside 20% of all units for affordable units, and it includes a sorely needed grocery store that the residents of the 4th Ward have been begging for the better part of a decade now. I'd like to say that the elements that the opponents are asking for, such as more parking, reduced density, and stringent facade regulations, will only make this project more expensive and worsen affordability down the line. So I beg you to ignore those calls. It needs to be said that the planning board are not experts, but regular citizens appointed by the council as a citizen review board. So with that, I say please pass this ordinance and move Lackawanna forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Copeland Perchy. First of all, congratulations on a well-deserved retirement, and I hope you get your lives back. It's certainly well-deserved.
It wasn't a retirement.
I don't think you have heard anything new tonight negatively on approving the redevelopment that you've previously approved. I also think, as a practical matter, it'd be a dirty trick to turn it over to the next council. And as a practical matter, as you well know, would undoubtedly mean another 3 to 5 year reconsideration and reopening of the whole thing. I think it's time for you, as you have in the past, to step up to it, show your leadership, approve it for the benefit of the entire town, and I thank you for hearing me out. Appreciate it.
My name's Charlie Hirschberg. My dad owns Pineapple Express right next to Lackawanna Plaza, and I would love if you guys could vote yes to redevelop again. Yeah.
Somehow I get the feeling you're here for 2 items tonight, based on that jersey. Yeah. Okay, seeing no one else, I will close the public hearing without objection. The public hearing is closed. As our township attorney noted, what we were discussing there is the Ordinance O-24-09 as modified, not substantively, and superseding and repealing and placing the other ordinance O-22-29. So just noting that for the record there specifically, we've closed that any. I will also, we vote on them concurrently? Move the resolution?
We're going to vote on them concurrently, but Mayor, I would suggest that you have Ms. Talley come up to make a few comments regarding the ordinance, especially if you have any questions concerning the ordinance.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. I just have a couple of points that I want to make tonight, because I know we have reviewed this redevelopment plan, the same redevelopment plan, several times. But I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate the process. The process of adopting a redevelopment plan is regulated by the Local Housing and Redevelopment Law, which specifically provides that, and I'm going to quote from the law, all provisions of the redevelopment plan shall be either substantially consistent with the municipal master plan or designed to effectuate the master plan. But the municipal governing body may adopt a redevelopment plan which is inconsistent with or not designed to effectuate the master plan by affirmative vote of a majority of its full authorized membership, with the reasons for so acting set forth in the redevelopment plan. So you've received copies of the Planning Board's report, which did find that while they supported in general, the redevelopment plan. They did find that it was substantially inconsistent, focusing on the issue of the height of the buildings. Specifically, they said that the height of the buildings for those buildings that front on Glenridge Avenue were of concern. What I'd like to point out is, yes, the Unified Land Use and Circulation Plan does designate the Lackawanna property as a redevelopment area with a maximum height of 4 stories. So that is the area of the inconsistency. However, the redevelopment plan also establishes policies for our redevelopment areas within which, and I'm quoting the plan, redevelopment plans should investigate the feasibility of planned development techniques such as non-contiguous cluster development, density bonuses, and maximum height allowances to ensure that new development provides complementary public improvements that may be on or off-site. I think that's critical because when we approached this project, we did allow flexibility, greater heights beyond what's allowed in the master plan or what's designed in the master plan in exchange for significant public benefits. And I'd like to go through those just to refresh everybody's mind. Number one, the redevelopment plan requires that a minimum of 20% of the land area be set aside as public open space. That's 71,700 square feet of this 8-acre site, totaling 1.64 acres. And that's open space that's designed and reserved for public use. It includes a plaza along Bloomfield Avenue that's 35,000 square feet in size. That's more than twice the size of the plaza at Seymour Street. It includes what's called Station Plaza along Grove Street. That's going to be a 15,000 square foot open space. It includes a linear arts plaza along Grove Street on the east side, which is 16,000 square feet, and what we're calling the Tony's Brook Culvert open space along Glenridge Avenue, which is a passive open space totaling 4,320 square feet. This plan also requires 20% of the units to be set aside for affordable housing. That's 60 units of affordable housing that will be created within this project, and it will include a local preference for Montclair Township residents and township employees. In addition, going beyond that, it does require that 10% of the units be reserved for workforce housing. We included language on how the workforce housing is going to be managed. It's clearly going to be subsidized by the developer. It's going to be regulated through deed restrictions. And for those of you who don't know what workforce housing is, it's defined as housing that's affordable to households that earn between 80% and 120% of area median income. And that will be 30 units of workforce housing. It also includes expanding the cartway along Glenridge Avenue to create the next phase of the cycle track, the two-way cycle track along Glenridge Avenue. We do have grant funding to connect this portion to the portion that's already been started on Glenridge Avenue. It's very expensive. Our second phase is over $1 million. And ultimately, that will connect with the Essex Hudson Greenway. We have a plan to continue along to Essex Hudson Greenway. It includes a requirement that they construct what's termed a state-of-the-art supermarket. It's not an option. You can't do that under zoning. They're required to provide a supermarket on this property. It requires that most of the historic resources on site be preserved. It includes extensive design standards where we had an architect create and prepare those design standards that were included within the redevelopment plan to ensure that the building design will be high quality design that does reflect the quality of the work that we have seen on Bloomfield Avenue. Most notably, I think we have an excellent example of what's happened on the Seymour Street project. And it also has setback and step-back requirements that are tailored to each building on each property line, because as you know, an 8-acre site which is surrounded by 4 roadways and bisected by Grove Street, there's a lot of frontage. So we've tailored the setback and step back requirements to reduce the visual impact of those buildings. In particular, the buildings on front on Glenridge Avenue. The redevelopment plan was amended, this was in the previous version, to push back building D, which fronts on Glenridge Avenue on the east side. We're pushing it back 74 feet from the property line on Glenridge Avenue. We've reduced it from 6 stories to 5 stories. So between the elimination of the 6-story, which is permitted under the existing zoning, we've reduced it to 5 stories and pushed it back 74 feet. We've visually reduced the scale of that building fronting on Glenridge Avenue. On the west side of the property, the west parcel, we have pushed back the top floor of, it's actually building B that fronts on Glenridge Avenue. That's been pushed back 100 feet. And the maximum height of the building was reduced to 5 stories by pushing that top floor back by 100 feet. That was the main inconsistency issue identified by the planning board. There were other issues that were identified. I think that those are largely site plan issues. They were concerned about traffic and traffic flow. As you know, we did do a traffic study. A developer, when they come in, they will be required to do another traffic study because obviously things change, traffic volumes change. And at that time, the redevelopment plan does include a requirement that the developer is responsible for mitigating any impacts in terms of the signals that surround this area and are up and down Grove Street, as well as the volume, the wait times on those streets. So that will be a requirement, and the planning board will have an opportunity to evaluate those mitigation plans. They identified parking as an issue. We did amend the redevelopment plan last time to identify changes to address some concerns with the shared parking ratios. We had the planning board's parking expert provide a report and an evaluation of the redevelopment plan about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and parking patterns, commuting patterns, and how that would affect this redevelopment plan. We made some changes. We changed the timing that was in the matrix used for shared parking in the redevelopment plan and added a new parking requirement for restaurant uses. So I think the intent, the developer will be required to address all of the parking needs on site with no option to do valet parking. So they're going to be required to meet it. And I think any parking issues will be addressed at time of site plan. The issue, it raised an issue with the supermarket visibility. Again, I'd like to point out that the concern was perhaps the lack of visibility was mentioned as one of the issues with the recent Pathmark closed. The Pathmark supermarket was hidden behind from Bloomfield Avenue by the interior portion of a shopping mall. You couldn't see the supermarket from Bloomfield Avenue. The building itself, where on the east parcel right now, is set back about 200 feet from Bloomfield Avenue. The former Pathmark was approximately 150 feet beyond that. It was 350 feet from Bloomfield Avenue. The proposed redevelopment plan moves the supermarket into the front of the building where the existing building footprint is, which is again about 200 feet from Bloomfield Avenue. You will see that from Bloomfield Avenue. The supermarket tenant will be able to put products out in front. As you notice when you go to supermarkets, that's how they identify. They put some of their products out in front. It'll look like a supermarket. So I think that that has been addressed. And the redevelopment plan also allows for additional signage, larger signage, because it is set back farther from the street. But quite frankly, having a supermarket that is 200 feet from a street is not unusual. That's the situation we have with the Acme supermarket. It's the situation with the ShopRite supermarket in Bloomfield. So it's really not that unusual to have the supermarket pushed that far back. And again, supermarket visibility, that's not a master plan issue. It's not mentioned in the master plan. Neither is it's a site plan issue. The planning board was concerned about open space, saying that the project touts substantial open space, but the proponents of the plan should confirm the size and quality of the open space that will be available. I think I went over that in the benefits. We did have details. We added details in terms of the requirements for each of those open space areas. We added requirements for maximum impervious coverage, minimum grassy areas within each of those redevelopment areas so that we can make them more usable. We added concept plans to the redevelopment plan for each of those open space areas. So I do think we've addressed that. Again, that's not a master plan issue. That's more of a site plan issue. So in summary, I do believe that the redevelopment, the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan is consistent with the master plan. It is using the redevelopment process to provide and dictate significant public improvements. I think that will definitely benefit this area, benefit this neighborhood, and benefit the township as a whole.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I know, Councilman Cummings?
I want to start with some of the things that you feel will be improvements. One being conversation of infrastructure. Everybody's talking about the flooding, and I know that in this plan there is the increase of the pipes in that area to be able to fit to, I think, what's called sandy level. That will increase. Can you explain that to me a little bit, please?
I can summarize.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of concern about stormwater. And as I'm sure you're aware, the state recently amended the stormwater regulations. We knew that when we prepared this plan that new stormwater regulations were coming down the pike. The redevelopment plan requires that the redeveloper meet the new requirements, which are more stringent than the requirements that were in place in 2023. In addition, we've gone beyond that. We're requiring the developer to designate the area that does flood, which is on Glenridge Avenue, near where the entrance is to the path mark from the back, to designate that as a flood hazard area. By designating it as a flood hazard area, it increases the level of review. DEP gets involved. We have to ensure that there is not only the reduction of potential flooding in that area, but we also have to have safe ingress and egress. So I think we've identified that in the redevelopment plan. In addition, any required improvements to water utilities and sewer utilities, sanitary sewer, will be provided as part of the redevelopment.
And have we resolved where the bank will be? TD Bank?
We don't dictate where the bank will be. The bank is a permitted use. It's permitted. We don't say it has to be in one place or another.
So there's a chance it may not be a part of this redevelopment?
It can be a part. We're not required to have a bank there, but it's a
Right.
permitted use.
Well, I'm
So
just
it
saying,
can
right,
be there.
what people have there now, they're expecting to have the same thing. I just want to make sure that the public understands that part of this is that there's no 100% sure that the bank will still be there.
We're not
And then-
requiring a bank.
And how do we account, or what have we been doing in terms of the development on Elm Street that's being built right now? That was the former Biderian.
Right.
And like when we talk about the traffic plan, the site plan, that will take that into
It does.
account?
The traffic study did include that project when the counts were made and the impacts were evaluated.
And then the other question I have, in terms of the next steps, this passes tonight, we then go to site plan?
There's a lot of steps. Once this is in place, it's law. It was adopted before. It gets adopted again. This becomes the law for this, and essentially the zoning and the planning for this 8-acre site. The next step is site plan review. They'll submit a site plan that goes for public hearing before the planning board. There are other steps which involve designating the developer, negotiating the redevelopment agreement and the financial agreement. Those are all part of the package and have yet to occur.
So when do you expect, I'm sure, this council will be involved. You mentioned the redevelopment agreement and the financial. When do we start that?
I think there's already been discussions about that.
Okay, so do we have any idea of what we're talking about with the financial plan, specifically pilots?
I know that I haven't seen the financial plan, but I know that it's being worked on, and I would defer to Mr. Lapola on any questions regarding the financial plan.
Okay, so
Financial.
have we started those discussions?
Yes, Counselor. There are negotiations going on, and it won't be addressed now because everything has to be done by ordinance, will not be addressed until the new mayor and council are seated.
Okay, so we're not going to be involved. This council will not determine the pilot
You will not.
agreement.
Right.
Okay, that's good.
And just one more thing in terms of the stormwater issue. On the agenda tonight, under new business I, we have an ordinance amending the section of our code that deals with stormwater to reflect those new regulations that were put out by the state.
Just another question is, why can't we know who the grocery store is? Or publicly, no?
I am reluctant to say what it is because I understand it's an agreement, a lease agreement between the developer and the grocery store, and it's confidential. So I'm not the person.
Ms. Babineau?
I'm not the person to ask.
You can come to a microphone then, please.
The supermarket has made it a requirement of the lease that there be a non-disclosure agreement in place until they are ready to move forward with marketing of the supermarket. It's just a contractual commitment.
So they signed a lease that we're going to come there, but they just don't want to announce who they are.
They want to control the timing of that. They're in the business of retail marketing, and I think that's part of their expertise.
Yeah, only issue I have with that is, and my concern is the supermarket and its fit with the community. And so I hope that as they do these marketing plans, that they understand that the community that they're going to be serving doesn't really shop kind of like the other locations that they have. And I hope they're ready to put in place some mechanism to support that shopper. And I hope that is something I hope that you can relay to them directly.
I am certain that those comments have been made previously to Mr. Plasek, and he will communicate them again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
I did want to respond sort of formally to where we are in this process, and when we moved this redevelopment plan again back in March, I noted that we're going through this process because we believe in this redevelopment plan. We want to get it right. We want to make sure that conflicts, real or perceived, any of that is just off the table, and that we are moving forward. In keeping with that, I'd like to thank our professionals for giving us the benefit of their expert opinions. Thank you, Ms. Talley, for coming up. And I'd like to thank the public for extensively, over a period of time, participating in the process. And, I think we have benefited from that over really quite a long time of this going on. I do understand that from Mr. Burr and from Ms. Talley that our charge is to review the redevelopment plan and the planning board's report and determine if we, the governing body, agree or disagree with the planning board's recommendations. We then have to decide whether to adopt the plan, notwithstanding any alleged inconsistencies identified by the planning board. We have the planning board report dated April 29, 2024, which offers a number of recommendations and finds that the redevelopment plan is inconsistent with the master plan, and the report from our planner, Ms. Talley, who we just heard from, and a memo from our consulting engineer, Neglia. So, kind of piggybacking in some ways on what Ms. Talley just ran through from her perspective, I just wanted to cite it from ours and mine, back to the issue of the size of the development and the building height. Again, Ms. Talley made some good points about the current zoning for the redevelopment area and what's contemplated under the master plan. The most important takeaway for me is that the master plan specifically calls for a redevelopment plan to revitalize the Lackawanna area and recommends density bonuses and maximum height allowances, for example, as an incentive for the public improvements. So we've heard about those. And that is exactly what we've done here, as she helped describe. Ms. Talley also detailed the significant public improvements offered by the redevelopment plan, including, but not limited to, the open space, the affordable housing, and the supermarket. And I would just comment to my colleague that any business, the supermarket, its intention is to succeed. So I'm going to trust that that business will know how to serve the community it's citing itself in. Just fully, though, these public benefits justify the additional height permitted under the redevelopment plan. And that was again explained by our planner. With respect to the concerns raised by the planning board regarding Glenridge Avenue, Ms. Talley stated that the redevelopment plan requires building step backs and setbacks to better integrate the buildings with the adjacent neighborhood along Glenridge Avenue. It's also worth noting that counsel for the property owner, the prospective redeveloper, pointed out that there are buildings along Glenridge Avenue that are similar height as the redevelopment, and so the proposed redevelopment is not actually out of character with these surrounding buildings, including, for example, the Midtown parking deck and some others that she cited. With regard to the traffic and parking, I agree with Ms. Talley that these are not master plan issues and that these issues can be addressed at site plan. And the redevelopment plan requires the redeveloper to provide parking and traffic studies in connection with the site plan application. But I also want to note that the township has done our own due diligence with respect to these issues. Our professionals have reviewed the traffic and parking and determined that the plan is reasonable. About the economic viability of the supermarket, while the planning board offers its opinions on how to make the proposed supermarket economically viable, these are not master plan issues, and the planning board cites no analysis or supporting documentation for those conclusions. We also heard again here tonight that the prospective redeveloper/property owner has a lease with the supermarket tenant. And I think it's also important to note that these issues may be addressed as part of a future site plan application. And the redevelopment plan allows for signage to ensure adequate visibility and wayfinding. And so the redevelopment plan was crafted for this site and this site design and provide the tools for the proposed supermarket to thrive and serve the community long term. As of the open space, we've talked about it. The redevelopment plan requires 20% open space. We have a concept plan of what that open space will look like under the redevelopment plan. In my opinion, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Looking at this, the open space required under the redevelopment plan is a significant public benefit, and I think the residents of Lackawanna, of the area, and the township as a whole will enjoy these improvements for years to come. I think they will enhance the quality of life for the whole town, and particularly for the people who live right there. The overall economic impact, the town again has done our due diligence on this point. The township's consultant prepared a fiscal impact analysis which addressed many of the issues, detailed the economic benefit this redevelopment will offer to the township. I will also note that we as the governing body will continue to analyze these issues through the redevelopment agreement and financial agreement, and if it's not we physically, it is the council who's coming next. But this is just the flow of government, and that will be heard by the governing body in the future. So for all these reasons and everything else we've said before, we've heard tonight, and really the opinions of our own experts, I think we should approve this redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan is a reasonable and well thought out plan. The plan before us tonight represents the final culmination, as we know, years of hard work and reflects significant community input. The redevelopment plan explains how it will further the objectives of the master plan. To the extent that the planning board has identified certain alleged inconsistencies, they are not material and are outweighed by the significant public benefits offered by the redevelopment plan.
Mr. Mayor, Janice, I'm sorry. I have one question I didn't get through. When you mentioned the workforce housing, but there's also 15% long-term rental for this, right?
Are you talking about the short-term rental?
Yeah, short-term rental, right?
We reduced that to 10%.
So that's been reduced to 10%.
Right.
Are we doing the same thing with that we're doing with the on Orange Road where it's being taxed?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we know how much that might kick off?
Sorry?
Do we know how much the taxing might kick off? Janice, do we know how much that might kick off? Not really, offhand.
I don't know the number right now.
Okay.
Any other council comments? Councilman Stick. Okay, so I will also note specifically for the record, agreeing with the resolution, which without objection I'll move at this time concurrently, which I'll call Resolution R-24-135, because I think we're up to this. So, which does state the responses as our planner noted up here, as one of our colleagues has eloquently spoken to, and I think we've noted in some of the pieces in the past. It does go point by point, so not to state what has been stated just for the purpose of doing that, but just want to note for the record and officially, for those reasons stated therein in Resolution R-24-135, I also will be supportive of this plan. I think it has been reviewed for years, having sat here for many years, and sitting through the previous iteration of the plan that was gone over for years, knowing that the developer used that plan to help guide what was created, and certainly to see the benefits that are in here and the pieces that were addressed. I think it will be a great addition and certainly bring the different pieces that we'd like to see to all of Montclair. So with that, without objection, I'll also move concurrently Resolution R-24-135. Is there objection? Seeing
That's
none- It's the resolution that states the reasons why we don't concur with the planning board.
Right, which is, okay, because we didn't do that last time. We are doing it this time, giving it, okay.
Yep. So I didn't hear objection, so we've moved that without objection. And now we will vote on the both the ordinance, which is O-24-09, slightly modified.
As amended.
Yep, as amended, but not substantively.
Without substantive.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
Yep, and Resolution R-24-135. So we're moving that, and I will call, unless you
Was
have a
it
comment?
second?
Well, there was no objection on the
Okay.
resolution, so with action, not hearing
Okay.
any. So both of those are on the floor right now that we are moving and voting on together, so we'll do that with a roll call. Madam Clerk, I will give you the roll call for O-24-09 and R-24-135.
Counselor Cummings?
No.
Deputy Mayor Herlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. All right, thank you very much, everybody. We have passed the Lackawanna plan. All right, next we have pending ordinance O-24-13, which is an ordinance to amend 257 rent regulations, Article 257-3. I so move.
Second.
Anyone wishing to be heard on this? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on this one. Any council comments? Here, Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And this is like a syntax thing. I just want to make sure it reads as we intend it to. It's item D that was added. A landlord can request a rent increase on covered units once every 12 months in an amount not to exceed 4% or 2% for seniors 65 plus, provided the unit is in substantial code, etc. I don't know what the syntax needs to be, but to either put or 2.5% for seniors 65 plus in parentheses or set off by dashes, but the comment, Mr. Burr, goes from not to exceed 4%, provided the unit is in substantial code, right? Like, I just want to make sure there's something in the syntax that concerns me. I don't want it to be misconstrued.
Mr. Burris, I would think you would concur that it would be non-substantive, but
Yes.
please make that.
Non-substantive, it's just to be sure. We really mean that whether you're
Right.
at the regular 4% or you're a senior getting the other level of
2.5.
increase, that all of what follows applies to either condition. So whatever that grammar needs to be fixed to make sure that's the intention. I just want to make sure we are in agreement on what it means.
Yes, that would be non-substantive.
But please fix it later.
Yes, we can fix it so that it's clear. The other amendment that also needs to be made, I believe, was sent to you
Yes.
this afternoon
Page.
from Ms. DeVito, which is also non-substantive, will be that the
Page 5.
language stating that the rent control officer would be under or the rent control ordinance and officer would be under the Department
office.
of Revenue and Finance will be changed to the manager's office. And that's not substantive.
All right, so as,
I'm going to continue, Mayor, I'm sorry. Mr. Burke, can you clarify on page 6? There's just a section B that was added to that. It's in red. I wasn't sure if that is new or not. Are these amendments, or this is how it was?
Yeah, this is new and consistent with the salary ordinance amendment you made several months ago, adding the position of rent control administrator.
Okay.
Right. And
Thank you.
that's the person that is the administrator that does all the work with regard to making sure the applications are in and following up with the landlords on registration and
Thank
those
you.
types of administrative processes.
And while I have the mic, Mr. Manager, I just wanted to also request, Mr. Lapola, that, and perhaps maybe at the next meeting, we would just have an update, perhaps from Mr. Scantlebury as the rent control officer, just to really brief us on the workings of this. I think it's been an important investment of the town to do this right. Thank you.
certainly one of the things I know we're very proud of getting done. Okay, so as moved and not substantively, but corrected with those modifications, including the parentheses and some other items as noted. So that has been moved. Was there a second on that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Got that. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, I'll call the roll.
Counselor Cummings?
No.
Deputy Mayor Herlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is pending ordinance O-24-14, which is an ordinance to amend the health standards for food handling. I so move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. I'll open a hearing on this without objection. Is there any objection? Hearing none, anyone wishing to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. Any council comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to clarify, and I don't know if we can sort this out right now, but there is a category of religious institution kitchen, and that's any food establishment located within a church, synagogue, mosque, temple, or any other building which is used primarily for religious worship and related activities. And there is some fee structure that category has to pay for the food handling permits. I just wondered if there is an entity such as St. Luke's Church that hosts Tony's Kitchen, and if their work is not part of just fulfilling on their what they do for their congregants in a sense, but there's a community mission function, whether we would waive a fee, and I don't know if that's something that we could, I don't know, I had a brief conversation with the health department director earlier today, but haven't quite sorted it out. So I don't know, Mr. Lapola, if that's something that you had discussed internally at all.
No, we did not, Counselor.
Health standards.
So I just don't know, if, for example, they use their kitchen for typical purposes, and then the proportion of how much they use it for this other community service function, if it's of a percentage, is there a will on this body to sort of just offer some language that can be maybe refined before the next meeting?
Well, this is second reading.
This is second reading, yeah.
I would note, I would probably say,
Why don't we table it then and see if we can fix it for the next time and pass it then?
if it is substantive, Mr. Burr, would that be considered substantive? Because then that would be an introduction. If there was some language that, well, Councilman, I'll let you speak to, that would do, you can explain that, and then we'll see if it's substantive, if it were to be substantive.
So are you saying your concern is like, because of the work they do at Tony Kitchen?
Yeah, they do this mission, it's not on behalf of just their congregants, but
Right.
it's on behalf of the community, and that we should give them some consideration to not have to pay a fee, if it's of a percentage that's,
No,
maybe
I-
over, well, I'm trying to refine what it is.
So it fits under mesh as well, because sometimes when they do at St. Mark's, when they have
Exactly.
the unhoused there, they are doing that too, so
And there's other
so
congregations
there's
that
more
probably
than
do
just-
similar, and I don't know all
Right.
of them, but
Mr. Burr,
So we're
would
doing
that,
things
would
for
that be?
community purposes. That
it's
should not
opposed to
be-
what they do for their own
Right.
congregation.
So if there's like a fundraiser, they should have to follow this, but if it's something that's benefiting the community,
You know,
Would
or
would
we
any kind
could-
of exploration of that, let's say, would
Yeah,
that be
I
considered
would believe that
substantive?
would be substantive, Mayor, to change that language so that those entities wouldn't have to make a payment on a fee, on a permit fee. Is that what we're saying?
I guess I would think it would be offset, depending on if it's a threshold, they'd have to tell us what percentage of the overall use of their kitchen is for that purpose, and maybe, I don't know, we would have to probably refine it. So I don't know if it's worth holding up over that. It is,
it's a good catch.
So I'd say.
it's a
I think-
$400 fee. Is it
and
on
I'm
an
not
annual
sure-
basis? It's an
I'm not
annual-
sure that category of usage falls within this ordinance, because this is for retail food establishment. I don't know if they would be considered a retail food establishment.
Well, what do we, a religious institution kitchen, I'm sorry. I was reading it on the train today. So, I don't know, I would leave it to my colleagues to decide if this is something we should defer this over, or we should just move it as
I
is,
would
because
offer-
there's a lot of other good.
I would offer second reading to move it. I think the managers heard the pieces, and if there's a way to modify, it would be something that you're hearing it's substantive. The reason I asked that is
Yeah,
because
no.
then that falls to the next group. So I would say that we move something that we have here, and then as needed, he can do the proper research and come back with any suggestions.
So I guess I'm gonna allow it to move forward. I mean, I won't withhold my vote right now, but I will ask if you would have that looked into,
Right.
and then maybe there can be something that
Sure.
the next
I
council
think you're
would
hearing the intent.
consider.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I think, the majority of this is really just fine. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is pending ordinance O-24-15, which is amending 253 public recreational bathing of the Township of Montclair with the permit fee. I so move.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Without objection, I'll open the hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. Any council comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Had a lot of time on the train. I wrote to the staff today. I found it confusing as drafted. We're talking about both permits and fees relating to public bathing, pools. And again, my conversation, I'm to understand that we're talking about, for example, if there's an apartment complex that has a pool, that's what we're regulating here. But I don't think I think we need better definitions. That's not a public pool. The public can't go use that pool. It's a common space in a private community, it seems to me. So I would suggest we just table this, and perhaps the next council can take this up. I just don't think this is, as drafted, it seems somewhat inconsequential that it have to move now versus in a month or something like that, and maybe they could address it then. But I just don't think it, if we're not talking about the township's pools, which we're not, because we're not assessing a fee on ourselves, I don't know what it applies to, and I don't think it's well-written.
Mr. Lepola, Mr. Burr, do you have a comment on this?
My understanding, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the permit covers the cost of the inspection of the pool. It's not
Which
just
pools?
operating the pool.
But which pools? I feel like it's not well
Then we
described.
can adjourn it and start again. I don't.
Well, that's what I
it's
feel.
up to you.
I just think I'm making a motion to table it.
Still have inspection.
I don't know that it's critical that we do it right now, and I think they could get it right with some more questions we don't have time for.
Any, is there a second to adjourn?
I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning this one? We are adjourning it. That way, if it can be looked at by the next meeting, we'll have some answers because
Sure.
it's being adjourned. So, without objection, we'll adjourn it. Is there objection? Hearing none, we'll adjourn that to the next one. Mr. Lepola, if you can get clarity around that or a non-substantive clarification, Mr. Burr, then we'll consider it. I'll go there. Next one, which is ordinance O-24-16, which is an ordinance to amend 276 sidewalk cafes of the code of the Township of Montclair. Without objection, I'm going to adjourn this one to the next one as well. I know that Jason Gleason from the bid reached out specifically and noted that there were some pieces that he'd like to have a conversation. I know that we have the director who is on vacation right now who came to us and presented rather than us debate around her thoughts and not know what those are. I believe asking Mr. Lopolo through you that she have a conversation with the bid or any other concerns, or there can be a conversation to that and hopefully get to a place where that works for everybody involved. So, Jason, I want to thank you for reaching out and bringing that to attention, and certainly want to thank our director as well, though, for her work on it, and hopefully we can come back to that one. Without objection, we will adjourn that one. Is there objection? That's the Sidewalk Cafe. Okay, that one is also adjourned. Thank you very much. Next is where we at? Pending ordinance O-24-17, which is an ordinance amending Montclair Code, Chapter 110, which is cannabis. I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Without objection, I will open the hearing to the public. Is there objection? Hearing none. Anyone wishes to be heard on this ordinance?
Back where it all started. Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Marshall, Montclair resident and owner of Genuine Grow, which is a fully licensed cannabis cultivator here in Montclair. First off, thank you guys for opting into cannabis 3 years ago and allowing us to do business here. However, I fear this ordinance tonight, we are going backwards. I support...
Hard to hear you.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it's on.
I think you're tall and the microphone.
I'll speak lower. I support the location change clause tonight, and I support the micro-business language, but the rest of the ordinance, I believe, will only hurt myself and my fellow license holders. Specifically, Section 24 of this ordinance says the township may suspend or revoke any license without notice if the premises is unoccupied or inactive for 6 months. This needs to be removed, or inactive and unoccupied should be defined. In no world can a new cultivator become operational in under 6 months. Since 2022, there have been 120 other fully licensed growers like myself, and only 11 have actually opened since 2022. To wake up one morning and think my license was taken away and not even be made aware is unthinkable. Myself and my father have spent $250,000 of our own money into this. We are at pre-construction, but it has been a very long process. Further, the rest of this ordinance creates issues with the renewal process. In this ordinance, it says we have to have our renewal by the state first to be renewed here, but the state requires township renewal first before the state issues their renewal. So we're creating a never-ending problem here where there should not be one. I really hope this ordinance was not drawn up to push out local businesses like myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Without objection, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Burr, would you speak to this matter, please?
Yes, Mayor. The provision that Mr. Marshall was talking about, he mentioned two provisions. One, I'll first talk about the renewal process, which requires that when you renew your license that you have a state license, an effective state license. The only time that will become an issue is when the licenses are running concurrently at the same time, at which time the state would require from the municipality a resolution of support or a letter of support, which the municipality would issue so that they could get their state license. Once they got their state license, their municipal license, provided they followed all the procedure in the ordinance for renewing their license was completed, they would have their renewal license. So that's not really an issue under the ordinance. The second issue with inactive or inoperable for a period of 6 months, if your business isn't open, the township then has the right to terminate that license. I don't believe there's the necessity to define what inactive or not operating is. It would be pretty clear that if you're not in the property operating under one of the cannabis entities that you have your license for, that would be clear and consistent. One of the purposes is to make sure that the cannabis businesses are running and are up and actively in business because one of the issues for the township will be the revenue generated from the sales of their products. And if they weren't operating, then there would be other license applicants that would like to have the license and run the business. The without notice is, that's in there. I don't know if the council would want to contemplate maybe adding a 15-day notice provision to the operator, to the retailer or business operator, so that they knew that their license wasn't being terminated or suspended. But that could be done, and that I don't believe would be substantive.
Could you make it 30 days and not be substantive?
Yeah,
Like, what's the risk?
yeah, absolutely.
I think when I hear 15, that seems very short, but 30
Right.
is more a month. Yeah.
It could be 30 days.
Okay. Thank you for that. Without objection, before we even debate this, any objection to adding that amendment, non-substantive change to make it 30 days? Any objection?
Well, I think to clarify first, but.
Yes.
I don't
All right,
know.
sure.
Do we have to deal with your,
We'll, as amended then, right? You can change it again if you need to, but we added 30 days to that.
30
so we're
days with
discussing
notice,
that.
right.
And then Councilwoman Price Abrams has some questions. So Councilwoman Price Abrams.
yeah, I understand why anything would be done without notice, but is this distinguishing from the initial opening from a period that might happen after being opened when it would suddenly go inactive? I think they're distinct, and I just don't know which one we're contemplating in this provision right here.
We're contemplating when they're in business operating and they go.
Like suddenly,
They stop, right, they stop operating.
Okay.
And I don't know if we can, I don't know if we can have feedback again from the member of the public. I'm just curious, like, that I think makes more sense as I read it. I heard the comments that Andrew made, which, may he approach to engage? So,
What's your question?
well, my question is, you cited the fact that, I know, not for lack of,
Specifically, it says if the
trying
licensed
just-
premises is inactive or unoccupied for more than 6 months, you can suspend or revoke. So it doesn't specifically say while you're in business, or I think the original ordinance says after 6 months of retail sales beginning, but this amendment doesn't say anything. It just says inactive or unoccupied for 6 months. And myself and the other licenses from last year, we're all pre-construction. No one has begun. It's a very, very long process with engineering, consultants, licensing, this, yada, yada.
Right.
It's never going to happen in 6
so
months.
what I want to clarify from Mr. Burr is your intention that it would apply, for example, to this business, which hasn't yet opened, which is a different issue for us, but this provision here, and I don't know if anywhere else we have a dictated, we obviously had hoped everyone would have begun operating by now, and there's a lot of complexity to it, I understand, but this should be clarified, I think, with maybe some additional words to do with once open.
I think that would be
Would you like
appreciated.
to make that amendment?
Well, is that also substantive then? Is that become substantive? Well, is it non-substantive? Like, we're basically trying to clarify if your intent was with regard to
My
an,
intent.
well,
This is the council's.
whoever drafted this piece for our benefit
Right.
to pass, I'm trying to
Right,
understand
if
if
the
the
intent
intention
is-
of that provision, 110-24, was about existing open businesses that go into a period of like suddenly inactivity.
Right.
So we should clarify
We
that
should.
we aren't talking about before a business gets open.
Correct.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
So do you have, maybe, I don't know if we put it aside, let him think about words to come back to us with? I mean,
Sorry, if you want to give that some thought, Mr. Burr, I would say, my colleagues too, we do have to think about, well, what period of time do you want to give before
Right.
someone does open, right? 'Cause I-
provision, I think, yep.
Fair, but I'm just
Well, I think
putting it in
that's
the
kind of-
conversation, right? Because I will note, one of the drivers that I know frustrates every municipality and certain us are pocket licenses for, liquor licenses and so many other things that don't get used, never get activated, or so many other things. That is a challenge, and certainly there's a revenue component to this, but there is also a feasibility. Like if you are, I'm making it up here, right, 4 years out and you are not able to open, I get the challenges, but at some point, right, what's the point, right? What's the point at which we say you've got to be able to open your business, or somebody else gets a shot to try and open the business, right? So I hear you. I would just note as part of that conversation, there's another number of what's the time before you even open, right? That you also have some time limit. I don't sit here to say this is the number we think it should be, but I would note I think it should be a number specific.
Well,
Right.
if we don't, if you think it's not the thing for us to be deciding right now, it just seems like maybe inactive licenses has to have an A and a B, and you're saying,
Yeah, well, let's
order to
say,
open and then-
so we can get to this full non-substantive, substantive. If we did split it to A and B, like a time period before even opening and a time period once you are opened and go inactive, right? The one, I think we're all kind of at the same place on once you open and go inactive, and I think that language would go to B, once you're
Right.
open and active. I'm seeing heads nod again, so I'm kind of going from that. If there's an A, which is you've got some period of time at which, it'll be any, a council can review it and say, hey, it doesn't mean you have to revoke it, but we could, because you're now up to blank period and somebody else is waiting to, what time frame could we do that wouldn't be a substantive change?
I think Mr. Marshall was pointing that out, that in the initial ordinance, there was some language that the entity, upon issuance of the initial license, had a certain period of time. I don't remember if it was 6 months or 12 months. I was looking to see if that was still in here, but I don't see it, so we'd have to put it back in. But that's what you would have to determine. I think we're starting to talk about a substantive change at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because people would want notice of that and maybe the opportunity to discuss it.
So then this would make it for introduction tonight, right?
Right.
First, and then we have the next meeting,
Yeah,
the second one.
and
So
do a second, right.
I would say to this group, what's a number that everyone thinks is, first opening up, granted, is it 12 months? Is it
Well, can I ask a
24 months?
question?
Is it
What-
18?
The 6 months, is that something that's regional, or is that something that you've seen in some of the other facilities around, or where did that come from?
No, that came from our original ordinance. I believe that was drafted by the prior township attorney. I know he researched some other ordinances that were coming into effect, but it hadn't been in practice yet. So, cannabis is a very new law in the state. I guess it's been two or 3 years now that it's been in practice. So there's no real gauge as to what that number actually should look like. I would suspect six months is reasonable if you're an active business and you're inoperable or not in operating in the business. That would be a reasonable time for you to know why is it not happening. I think, and it would be incumbent on the business owner to communicate that with the township that if there's an issue, what's the issue, and ask for an extension of time. Maybe there's an issue that would warrant an extension of that 6 month period.
So we want to have a hard line date of, you got 12 months to get up and running once you're licensed. However, the business can come to us and say, listen, my construction is not there, it's going to take me another 6 months. And you can reasonably extend that because for the locations here, they have to do a lot of construction work to meet the regulatory. So I think and this is substantive, right?
Yeah.
So we're
I think
gonna
we
reach
can
it.
pass
but we
this
could
with
add
an
that.
adjustment, but we need to look at, because because you also have individual businesses with different properties, some requiring more work than others. So
I
there
tend
should
to
be some
lean,
flexibility.
I tend to lean to the councilman's number of 12 months. I appreciate Mr. Berger's 6, but I tend to lean to the 12 months, and people can come in, and if they've got extenuating circumstances or other issues, they can come before council and explain those. But I do think just open-ended, no time limit
Right.
is not,
Right.
that doesn't work, I don't
Right.
think either. So I'm comfortable with that if there's a will, and that would be a substantive change. This would be first reading, and we would, of course, open it to public hearing at the next meeting.
I did want to ask a clarifying
Please.
question. So, Andrew, if you don't mind coming back up, I don't recall when you got your license, so I think the first crop, if you will, to use the term, but before, let me ask the question. So, as this is all new, and certainly in this town and the state in general, I'm assuming it might smooth itself out over time, and it might not need as much time. But when were you given your license, or was it the license itself? The permission to go ahead and open?
We got the Montclair resolution or license, which is what you need to convert to a full license from the state. That application
Wait.
to convert took about 6 months. We got our final approval in October. So the next thing you need to open is a final inspection from the CRC. You have, they give you originally a year to inspect your final inspection from the annual licensing date, and then you can request an extension if need be. So the state gives you already 1 year to open because they know it's going to take a while to open up. And so like I said, there's been 120 other growers like myself fully licensed, and only 11 have opened. So it's taking growers 2 to 4 years to fully open. 6 months, 12 months would be great with an 8 months or 6 month extension, but 6 months would be physically impossible.
All right, thank you. I think we're kicking around the idea of a year, and, obviously we're going to want to work with the people that we've issued a license to because we want to see this thing succeed, and so, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
I so amend that those two things is broken into two pieces. Mr. Burr, I think you've heard the discussion.
Right.
B can be as listed there with the time frame of 6 months. A is initial opening with a period of 1 year. Again, they can come before council, but the council could then take action. And again, we said 30-day notice.
Right, so yeah. Well, and we'll
With
add
those
the-
pieces,
we'll add the language.
I so move.
second?
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Without objection, we'll also adjourn, adjourn ordinance O-24-18, which is a bond ordinance. We have another one to do there, so without objection, we'll adjourn that one. See none, we've adjourned that one. All right, moving to other items. I know we've got a crowd for different things here, so I'm going to open public hearing on other agenda items. I imagine people will want to speak to maybe some of the ordinances there specifically, so I'll ask anyone who wants just to come to a microphone and speak to other agenda items, and then we'll take action on other agenda items. So, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, council members, Reggie Jenkins, Montclair resident, also member, along with Deron Siddons of the Friends of Clary Anderson Association. We're appearing tonight to say thank you. Thank you for the introduction of the funding ordinance that's on the agenda this night, and also, to urge that it be adopted and passed. I think we should first like to acknowledge the number of people in the crowd here this evening with regard to this, and you can tell by the hockey jerseys why they're here. As a hockey parent, I can safely say that this is a small representation of the townsfolk here, but the people who utilize this site. But I also want it to be known that this is not just a hockey item. This is not just a hockey interest. Nor is this just simply looking for funding for some historic and nostalgic piece that doesn't get used. We have an asset here in Montclair that is unique amongst many of the municipalities in this county, in this state. Not everybody has a rink. The reason these people are here, the reason I'm here, the reason we are doing and starting fundraising to aid the town's efforts is because this is important. It's important to the hockey people, but it's also important for people, not just a niche, but in every ward of this town. Every ward. If you come out on one of the big games, but if you also come out on free skate, you see people who are there on their first dates and second dates. You see them coming in from all the way, from every border of this town. And you also have them coming from out of town. And they're coming here and they're spending money here. They're enjoying Montclair. They're enjoying this asset. We need it. It is a quality of life that also has the ability, through its own funds, to be partially, if not fully, self-sustaining, unlike the other things we put our money into, like football fields skate parks, basketball, tennis courts, or anything. But this is the quality of life item that we have here that is utilized, and with the correct funding, not only will it be continued to be used in its current levels, it's only going to expand, and it's only going to be to the benefit of this great crowd here. My kids who are aging out, but they're still going to come back. But it only makes us better. So thank you for entertaining it, and please, please, please give us the funding for that. And if you do your part, all of us out here, we're going to do our part. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie. Darren Siddons, 75 Montclair Avenue. I've been a resident of Montclair for almost 25 years. First of all, thank you all for your service. You've done a great job. I mean, you've had a lot of really tough issues to go through, and I think you've just done a fantastic job. And secondly, thank you very much for, agreeing to fund the feasibility study, and I think we've got some really good information out of the feasibility study, some really good opinions and some ideas as to how we can bring this forward. And I really think that we can build a fantastic, I think skating center is probably a great word for it. I appreciate that we now are going to have a senior center. The skating center is going to be another place for people to gather for whatever reasons, for skating parties, public skating, hockey, figure skating, or just to go hang around on a Friday night to go meet people and skate, like it has been for a long time. We have officially formed the Clary Anderson Arena Association. It's a approved not-for-profit 501(c). We're ready to raise money, and we really want to help the town. And if you make a commitment, we will try to match that commitment, and hopefully we can exceed that commitment. We promise you that. And all these people here are going to help. So, I think we can really create something that's going to be fantastic for the town for the next 25 years. So thank you, and we look forward to making this happen. Anybody else wants to say something about the rink and why we should have it?
Hello, my name is Lucy Rowe, and I have been skating since I was 4 years old. I have fun skating at Clary Anderson during the winter and fall, but as soon as the warm weather comes around, Clary closes since there is no insulation. Unfortunately, the building is falling apart. There is some sort of plant growing on the roof, and as I skate, there are many leaks from the ceiling. These are just some of the problems, and Clary is an amazing place that everyone in our town and beyond can and should enjoy. It makes perfect sense to get it up to speed for learn-to-skaters, to birthday parties, to school skate days, and more. This would mean a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Charlie Nagy, and I'm 11 years old. I play for Montclair Blues, and for the first time I ever learned how to skate and got an interest in playing hockey was at Clary Anderson. At one of the free skates, I was trying to skate, falling down as everybody does when they first try to skate. And I did skating a lot, and I really liked it. And now I really like ice hockey. And I'm pretty sure all the travel coaches here want to keep it, because if it doesn't, all the kids who've been playing on that team for a very long time, most of them probably won't get to play depending on how far the Horse Pirates / Wolves get relocated. That is all I have to say.
And now as a high schooler, my winter season spent every single day there. Seeing such a beautiful place just go down would kill the hearts of so many people from Montclair, all the people from Nutley, Bloomfield, all the places in North Jersey, and especially as an upcoming senior, this is my last time I could beat MKA. So if all I could do is just have one more chance, one more time, just beat them. That would be all I could ask for. And then for the upcoming years, we have more Montclair hockey people in the crowd. I know they just want to have the same experience as me and be able to just beat our crosstown rivals. If you guys can make this happen, you would bless the hearts of everyone in the town. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Are we going to alternate here? Is this where we're going? Okay, here we go. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ethan Kilcullen. I'm 15 years old, and I've been playing hockey for over 12 years, and all of those years have been at Clary, Anderson, and the rink at MSU. Clary is an important and unique part of Montclair. It is home to 2 high school teams, multiple club teams, figure skating, and public use. It is important to repair and update Clary for future generations. Having access to a rink at an early age has afforded me the opportunity to be a part of teams and play in different parts of the U.S., Canada, and Europe. I hope kids in Montclair will continue to have the same opportunity that I have.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Thomas, and Clary is an important part of our township, and our contractor was supposed to take care of it, and we didn't ask them to do it. I'm also a resident and a long-term skater. I was part of Montclair Inside Edge. When I was here, our hockey team was the champions. I've watched it fall apart with great disdain. I've watched as we moved our contractor to allow 1 hour between 1:30 and 2:30 for our families to skate, for public skate. No child that is in school in Montclair can use that time. If you are going to fund it appropriately. Don't say that we're going to float a $5 million bond when it's going to actually cost us 15. Do your jobs correctly. Make sure things are properly funded, not just for the applause, but for the children. Thank you.
Seeing no one else for public comment on agenda items, I will close public comment on agenda items. Thank you very much, and certainly on agenda items.
Sarah Avery, a Montclair resident. The bill list resolution includes a number of payments classified as expenditures from the opioid settlement fund. Montclair Ambulance received over $9,000 for professional services, and Robin Lavarado received over $4,000 for administration. This is exactly what John Oliver warned about in a recent episode of Last Week Tonight. Almost none of the $50 billion settlement is going to the individuals of families harmed or opioid addiction prevention. The money is going to governments using the funds as a slush fund to cover budget gaps. Opioid remediation is broadly defined, and governments can attempt to justify almost any purchase, and there are no rules for state and local government to report how they spend any of the money. So fair warning, I will enforce transparency and oversight with respect to these expenditures in this community. I would also like to point out that Michael Lapola installed a new door for his office at a cost of over $6,000. What is he doing? Building a bunker?
Anyone else for Public comment on agenda items.
Regarding spending on opioid epidemic, the Montclair Ambulance Corps has done Narcan training, which is an important service to the community. It should be expanded. Everyone should know more about this, especially anyone with children, anyone who has anyone in their family who uses drugs, any kind of drugs. We cannot do enough to stop this epidemic. So please spend these funds and spend them well.
Mayor?
Well, let me see. Anyone else I don't want to hold them up. Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing none, I will close the public comment on agenda items. Mr. LaPola?
I just want to address this issue of the opioid money. The health department went through a full RFP process. We received several responses. It was vetted by the health department, the police department. 2 contracts were awarded. One was awarded to the ambulance squad, and one was awarded, and I can't think of the name of the other organization off the top of my head. This council voted to award those contracts several weeks ago. These are payments under those contracts. They are very specific in the services that they are providing, and I think it's very unfair to disparage organizations like the ambulance squad or anyone else who's trying to deliver these services to people who need them. Thank you.
I think certainly we concur. That's why we voted to do it and authorize that, because it is important work, as we know, and so many are impacted and affected by this.
Unanimously,
So as
too,
much
Mayor.
unanimously, yeah, as much as we can do. Okay. So with that, again, with genuine flexibility, so knowing, again, the audience and who's here, I will move to Ordinance O-24-24, which is a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements to Clary Anderson Arena for the Township of Montclair, appropriating the aggregate amount of $6 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $5,714,000 bonds or notes of the Township of Montclair to finance part of the cost thereof, and I so move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded, and certainly I will say, hearing everyone here, and yes, seeing everyone here, I'm very proud of, as Councilwoman Price Abrams noted before, we've been doing things like rent control, and Mayor Luck Baskerville here knows that the bookend of that, the work we began and what we started there, and so many other pieces. But we've also done tons of infrastructure work, like roads, and repaired our sewer lines and done those things. But along the way, done a skate park and made improvements there, and certainly funded a lot of projects, and certainly as we see now, even moving forward with putting the space in place for and senior center and all these other pieces. Add this one to the list. I think, as you've heard before, this is a community asset that is unfortunately getting in just worse and worse of a condition. Anyone who's been in there can see that. Still a great community asset, but it's one of those things where if you don't invest in it, it can go away, and that would be a travesty, in my opinion, as well as so many people who spoke tonight. I think that what we are looking at here, and certainly, we won't hold you to the comment, what was it, 100 million you promised the first meeting? 30 million, right? So, well, yeah, okay. So I'm smiling on that one. I remember when you had to get, we have an obligation here. And that obligation, as we look at it, by all accounts, whether it's something a little more conservative, might be a $15 million project or plan, or something a little more expansive, might be a $21 million plan. But the conversation always was there are other dollars to be had, right? I can tell you right now, and appreciate all the speakers, there's conversations with MKA, there's conversations with the school board, right, of dollars that are put in to help support this asset that many students utilize as well, right? So those are growing this. But no matter what, when you hear those numbers, we know there's going to be some dollar amount, right, that we're needed to come through with. Finding that money and coming up with $6 million, I think is substantive. It's real. It allows, quite frankly, many of you to fundraise from and off of, to say this is the town's commitment. What else can we add to this? It speaks to a real commitment to those other entities that I noted, right, and there are others as well, that we're serious about this. They can come forward and also contribute and get us to the dollars that we need. And I think in that space, Again, it can be something on the more conservative end, and we've all heard, and I won't speak for him, my council colleague, Councilman Cummings, maybe something more expansive, right? And I don't think we're here to define exactly what that looks like right now, but we are here to say we know that either way we are prepared to show we're serious about this. And this is, by all accounts, I think everyone would agree here, this is real money. This is a real amount to help support. But it is going to come to fruition when we've got other dollars and other supporters and all the partners come together to make this happen. But it's a long time overdue. I mean, you hear the conversations, and I remember years ago when we had, you guys remember, was it $150,000, but we had to use that for a cleanup of a site, right? Or we wanted to, right? And there's just this piecemeal approach that just hasn't worked. And quite frankly, dollars are taken and used in other places. So I think it's far too long. We've all looked at things and said, well, it can last another year. We can put some more chewing gum in a couple of those holes in the pipes. So we could, put something over the roof, another tarp. We can, avoid the peeling paint for another skate or whatever that is. But at some point, you have to get serious, and you've got to make sure you invest in your assets. You've got to make sure this remains a community benefit for years to come. And quite frankly, I think with this action tonight, and then hopefully our second reading at the next meeting, this shows that commitment. I think from there, it'll be great, partnership as you work with for newly elected individuals to see what that project evolves to, and make sure that occurs. But I know you'll be in good hands as that work continues there as well. So with that, I'm really excited about this. I'm excited to kind of be keeping with the things that you've heard from months and months and years ago. Now you've come forward to these meetings, and you've heard the clear and concise and consistent position that I've had, and the debate around this. So for me, it's just an exciting moment to be able to come through and say, here we are, not just talking the talk, coming through with $6 million for Clary Anderson, which is, again, a big deal for what we're trying to do here and get us to the place we need to be. So I'm really excited, and Councilwoman, I want to thank you for seconding this as well, and for your leadership in this area. And with that, I'll let you speak second. You did second it, so if you'd like to add any of your comments, and then of course I'll go around.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And I would like to just say a couple of quick things. It is my hope that this is just a starting point with this money, seed money, to get this up and running. It is also my hope, because I won't be up here for very much longer, that going forward, this is not just an ice skating arena. There's so much potential there. There's a swimming pool there, a major swimming pool. There's a beautiful park and playground that the town just did last year. It is my hope that this whole area becomes more of a community center, more of a gathering place, like that young man who spoke, the high school student who said he goes there and he meets his friends. For so many years, I've been hearing from parents of teenagers that teenagers need places to go after school, like the skate park. There's lots of kids, even if they're not skating, it's a safe place for them to be and hang out. I hope that the arena becomes that as well. Hopefully there'll be a wonderful snack bar, and kids could come, and after school, if they don't skate, they could have a burger or a shake, or something like that. It would be my hope that that's what this becomes. It's also been my experience over the years, when the ice is melted, there was plywood that was put down over the rink. There was a dog show there many years ago as a fundraiser for the crew team at Montclair High School. It was incredible. My dog did not win anything, but he participated as best dressed. It was an incredible event. And that happened with the plywood and the infrastructure inside. There was also an antique show in there at one point when there was plywood, and it was a big success. So there's other opportunities, not just to skate, but for it to be a community center for people to gather. It also needs lighting. It is so dark outside. The last game I went to, the big MKA high school game, and it's so dark. It needs lighting. It needs a lot of sprucing up outside as it does inside. So it's my hope that that's what happens. And it's been my pleasure to work with the mayor also on this, and Councilor Price Abrams. Councilor Cummings and I did a walkthrough there quite a while ago. So it's a long time coming, and we wish you good luck. And even though I won't be up here, I'm happy to help you in your endeavors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as we do this, I'll just note, this is that opportunity for that partnership and growth, right? The $6 million, that gets us, we all know, right? That gets us repairs, right? That gets us some fixes. We need more stuff, and that's on all of you and everyone else in the conversations we have. But these dollars specifically, repair and fix and do that, and now let's add on, right? That's the goal here. I think that's a solid place to be. We know we're not losing our community asset, and now let's grow it. But our commitment is let's repair, let's fix, let's do what we need to, and grow it to something that it can really be an exciting thing as well. Questions? Who wants to? Okay. Councilwoman Price Abrams.
I just want to lend my enthusiastic support as well. I think, it's been long in coming in terms of before the tenure of this council, obviously years in the making, as has been noted, disrepair, et cetera. But the sense of vision that started early, and we, sometimes a deadline's a good thing to sort of say, let's coalesce around what is in the realm of the possible. And so $6 million, a substantial amount of township dollars, was identified to put toward this, knowing that there are partners, there's enthusiasm broadly across the community, and many months of hearing from members of the public from different towns, and as well as our own hometowns, leagues and community members. But there's a sense of vision depending on what can be raised. I mean, it's all that has been said, and we had talked early on before there was a senior center that's been dedicated. How can we make that second floor? There's got a cooking and kitchen area. There's so many intergenerational opportunities, so many different things that are possible, depending again on how the community can respond and match and exceed what the town has seeded here. And it's just important to do big things, and I'm glad that we are going to help deliver on this before we step away from this dais. So, congrats to everybody.
Councilman Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got some process questions and some other questions about this. But first, I want to say, Roger, you and I are probably two people who learned how to skate there.
Actually, I learned how to skate at Edgemonte before that was even built.
Yeah, I forgot. That's why you gave the older American English. Yeah.
Clary Anderson was my coach, though.
Right.
Clary Anderson was my football coach.
I can remember Christmas getting my black Bauer Supremes and watching my brother skate. So yes, I can skate. It was a good time. Well, here's my question. So, I don't think the public should be contributing anything to this. I should be on a record for saying that, because I think this is something that should be for the entire township, and we can find a way to get that done by, well, not we, future councils, with some things that we have coming in as we do development. So I just want to be on the record for saying that. I think that this is significant dollars that we're putting towards this. So my question is, what is the immediate plan? And I go to you, Mr. Vapola.
Well, Councilor, I would say the immediate plan is a two-track plan. We, in reality, have to, while our goal ultimately would be to build a new facility, and that, and working, with our consultants, with many of the people in this room, we've had numerous conversations with the Board of Education, and I'm cautiously optimistic that there will be a contribution from them. We've even approached MKA. There are people in the community who are in a financial position that they may want to make a major contribution, and we've been doing that. That being said, the reality of it is Clary Anderson is in dire need of a lot of work. So planning at the same time for worst case scenario that there isn't funding for the big project, and we have to put in the HVAC, or we have to replace the ice in the system and everything else. So a year or two from now, if we do not put the big funding together, or it's not voted on to be provided by the governing body, we have to take action to make the place usable. It won't be fancy, but we'll have a rink. So I'm trying to do both at the same time, because holding off on planning for those repairs, and we're not planning to do anything in the immediate future, but not planning for that scenario also, I think, can create a situation where one day the place is locked and it could be years or never before it's reopened. So it's a little complicated in the approach, but as a manager, I think that it's important that we plan for both scenarios.
So I guess, well, my question then is, right now, do we have an idea of the structural of the building? And in terms of that, have we done any, do we have an engineer architect? Do we plan on having an engineer and architect go in?
The building is not in danger of falling down, but it is not, could not support any additions, et cetera, with the roof, et cetera, like that. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
we've had discussions, and you're going to be getting the report from the consultant in the next couple of days, hopefully, and you could see that there's different scenarios. The ultimate goal, if we can get the full financing, would be to first build a rink that's regulation size. Am I right, guys? Yes, sir. Right? So, and the second part of it is perhaps expanding moving forward, not a lot of space, but put additional space in there so that this would be in a new facility, additional space for other kinds of activities. There have been discussions for things like on the second level to put a regulation size running track, because for championship meets here in New Jersey, we run in Staten Island. That was a new one to me, because there's no facility for a regulation track. So we're looking at all those scenarios, and all those are going to be decided by how much money there is. Hopefully, the generosity that we've, in these dozens of interviews that we've had, no one is, I'm not saying that we can build a new facility for $6 million.
Right.
What I'm saying is, and if we get to build a new facility, this ordinance would have to be amended so the money would be for new construction as opposed to repair. But we're trying to do this on that double track, and I think that, in my short time in Montclair, I think that we have been, and I admire everything that everyone has done, whether it's roads and water and everything else. But the reality of it is that many of these facilities that primarily our young people use have fallen to the back of the line, and it's time that we put them to the front of the line.
So
at least from a policy perspective.
Yeah, that's a good part there. So we'll get a report from the Arbery Group in the next couple of days of
Yes.
their recommendations.
Yes.
So in those meetings, were there any other athletic departments in the township that participated, such as PAL, basketball?
No, we did not. We didn't get into specifics about what, if we figure out the money as to which we didn't want to make that decision of whether or not, okay, we have extra space. Is it going to be used for basketball? Is it going to be used for another sport? If we can figure out the money and we have some space, then we can decide which sports go there.
Yeah, because the footprint, first of all, the footprint there is much larger than the rink
Yes.
of land that we have, as you know, from our walking. So there is opportunity. I mean, I think what we're doing is great, but there needs to be a plan of really using that facility and that asset to its maximum capacity.
Right.
And so I say that because when you mention Staten Island, they also go run in Tom's River, which has a beautiful facility, but we have no size of parking for all of that. So they just don't go to Staten Island. So again, I'm looking at this as a great starting point, but not in this, because if we come out of this at the end with just an ice skating rink, we've blown an opportunity. And I hope that's not the goal here.
It is not the goal. The goal is to maximize every inch that's available.
So to that, did you review any of the other plans that have been done for this facility
The
before?
consultants and the committee have seen the plans. Yes.
No, that they've seen the plans that were done by the engineering groups?
Yes.
Okay, which included totally remodeling the whole footprint.
Yes.
And giving us a multi-generational facility. All right, that's good. So, which is a total cost, I think, is going to be more than $15 million if we ever
It
get
could
to
be
that.
upward of 20 or 22 million.
Right, so
if
then
you-
once you look at timing, is the expectation that the rink will be open and available and ready when?
That question becomes when we get the rest of the financing. You're talking about a new facility?
No, I'm talking about this $6 million
Right.
is, as you said, is going to renovate. So with this $6 million, I'm sure over time, this summer, we're going to take advantage of this time to go in and really do all the digging and building that needs to be done. Because we're essentially looking to replace the current rink, right?
Well, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be simultaneously preparing for that option. But if we get the commitment from the school board and some other commitments, we can then do the planning for a fully new facility, okay? And then temporarily, we have to decide on a location yet, have a bubble type facility for everyone to use until, because it's gonna take a couple of years to build no matter what we build.
Right.
So we have to have them go somewhere, or everything, the high school teams don't play, the club teams don't play, nobody can skate, so we have to go somewhere else.
So we're
But
talking-
the goal is not to spend
Right.
the $6 million to fix it. We may have to spend some money to keep it going, but if we know that we can, we're going to build a new facility, we'll minimize those costs while we commit that money to building whatever facility we can afford.
Do we expect to have the rink open for next hockey season?
There will be a rink. That was a big issue. That was a big issue with everyone we spoke to, that we would have to have a rink available. And if it's not there while it's undergoing construction, we would use a temporary rink with a bubble and ice. They do it near where I live.
A temporary rink where Clary is right now?
And that won't be excuse me, I have no voice left. It won't be in Clary. It'll be probably some other location. But that type of facility is used in several towns in New Jersey now, where they just put up rinks from November to March for people to use and take them down.
We all pay county taxes, and we have what they have in West Orange, so we should at least be able to start talking to the county about using the rinks that they have there, and then Montclair State, because we have rinks, and we have to make sure that we get availability if they're there. Because so my first question is, really don't know if the rink will be available for the hockey season next year. The goal is to now come up with a bubble facility
if it's
somewhere
under
else.
construction, under repair, would that be shut down, or construction for a new facility? The plan is to have an alternate location in Montclair for them to use.
Where could we potentially do that? Are we talking about maybe the Woodman someplace?
It'll be it's a temporary site, so it's sort of like the bubble that they have now for fields, but it's and I know it's in Westfield, and I don't know other towns they've done this, but they literally build a pop-up rink that they'll put up for 6 months.
Where in town do we have that? Anderson's a county park, so that's what I'm saying. So
hold on, just for the purposes of those at home who can't hear you too. And I think the idea, which I'm hearing there, is that hasn't been fully determined. Those would be conversations with the county, as you guys are noting, in other places. But that is not what this is, right? This is $6 million to make sure we've got what we've got, make sure we've got a rink, make sure it's ready to go. And then it will be additional conversations with everybody involved to see what dollars can be raised, to see what timeline Mr. Lapola is talking about here. But at that juncture, making sure we do have an asset, a sheet of ice that's available, that would be key. I understand that. I understand the councilman's point, but not sure if he's aware, but like so many of those are the rinks, those ice times are booked, right? So we know that it's not just going to another location and getting that ice. There's about 30 other rinks, 30 other teams that are on those sheets and using them. So, but again, our intricacies are not to nail all those pieces down now. Ours is to begin that commitment, $6 million, make sure we've got a rink that is sustainable and up, and again, raise dollars and do those pieces to get us where we want to go and see where that lands. But the dual track is the path.
yeah, that sounds great. But my point is, we're talking about, I knew nothing about a pop-up rink somewhere. Where in town will we do that? And then thinking about, as we all know, wherever you put it, people are going to come. Now you got residents, they're okay with that, right? They're going to be fine with ice skating rink pop up in my house. These are things that I'm just saying, as we move forward, as you all move forward with this, to at least let people know what is coming down the pike ahead of time. That's all I'm asking in terms of that. Now, in terms of what we're trying to do, and Mr. Mayor, you and I had a good conversation about this before the meeting, I'm all for putting money towards this as long as the plan is to ultimately get the maximum use out of Clary Anderson and not just end up with a ice hockey rink that has, well, they used to make the best French fries in town. The bowling alley was better. But that, I think, is something that is very important to me.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, if that's the goal.
That's
so
the goal.
I'm taking your word for it.
That's the
Dr.
goal.
Baskerville, good luck.
Not just good luck, and here's $6 million, by the way. Yeah. Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, I'll please, it's moved and seconded. Discussion, please call the roll on Ordinance O-24-24, which is for capital improvements to Clary Anderson, appropriating $6 million therefore.
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
I'll do one of those emphatically yes. Very happy to do it. Good day. Yep. All right. Thank you very much, everybody there. We've moved that. I see kids. We'll take a 5-minute break for restroom, etc., and we'll come back. And I know everybody is a lot of hustle there, so 5 minutes, and we will come back. So we will pause for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and then moving on. So restroom, everything else, and anyone leaving, thank you. And then 5 minutes, please. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we took that recess there. Okay, next is moving ordinance O-24-21, which is an ordinance to amend 327-11.1, which is speed limits in the school zones for the Code of Township of Montclair. I so move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams and then Councilman Cummings.
Thanks, Mayor. So this, was something that came about as a result of the council indicating our interest to protect students and other people in and out of school zones, and so that's what this is. I understand that the engineering team had worked with other parties and developed this list of the streets that would then have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. We know that it's a challenge to drive, but it's important when there's children present, and that's why this is on here. But in reading it more carefully, I did want the public to be aware that, there's limits on when they're in effect, so when children are present, it's in our memo. So while children are going or leaving school, during opening and closing hours, it's also if they're visible on recess, et cetera. And so I would want to encourage the public, obviously, to drive with care at all times throughout the township, but these 20-mile-an-hour limits really are when children are present. And I think, Mr. LaPola, through communication systems, we should really do good public education on these. I know the Vision Zero Task Force kind of had been party to these discussions, and I'm happy that they're being integrated in some of this thinking and decision-making. But I think it's just really important about public awareness. We're not looking to just ticket people, although if we have to take their money and put it to good use, we will. We really want people to be careful. We want them to know about it and know the limitations on when they're in effect. So I do think, just want to ask you to issue that in every manner, that's appropriate through the texting and all the mechanisms that we have available to us. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Couple of questions.
Councilman Cummings, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, Mr. LaPola, Cedar Avenue, Harrison Avenue to Orange Road, is there any thought of extending that to, High Street and Orange Road goes, the one from High Street, it goes from Orange Road to Cedar. Is there any thoughts of extending that because High Street going down a little bit further past there? Roger, what's that before you? The street before, Virginia Avenue. Right, so there's a speed bump there, but that's also a thoroughway that goes right into the school and the park. And so I think we need to look into whether or not we need to extend that to Virginia Avenue. Then Elm Street from Bloomfield Avenue to Fulton. I suggest that goes to Hawthorne and Elmwood Avenue. Hawthorne and Elmwood are also a bus stop. Kids getting off the bus, and that's also a tricky stop and go area. So I think if we're going to extend it to Fulton, is we need to look at extending that further. That's just a suggestion to look into. Then we have Maple Avenue to Bloomfield, Bloomfield Avenue to Woodland, off of Maple Avenue. Again, I think that could be extended to Lincoln, just all the way up. It's just 2 more blocks. I think you have Lexington and then Lincoln. Again, just to make it consistent, because if it's hard for a car to think, I can do 25, 30 here, and then all of a sudden I got to drop to 20. So if you just look at the street. So those were the initials. And then to follow up to that, we had discussion, it's a little separate, of making High Street from Cedar to, not Virginia, the street, the little cul-de-sac, Roger.
High Terrace,
Is that High Terrace? When you can make the right before Virginia? Making it one side of the street parking. I know Ms. Agnezzo said she supported that because that block is not conducive to parking on both sides, even with the extension from High Street. It's just too tight. So if we had one-sided street parking, I think that would be fair. And I know Lieutenant Agnezzo did say she supported that. Other than that,
Orchard Court, Dave.
Orchard.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, Orchard, no, that's the left.
That's the left.
I'm talking about the street after you make the right. It's a little like cul-de-sac.
High Terrace.
That's
High
High
Terrace,
Terrace, yeah. Right. So those are all my suggestions just to look at, to consider. Is that considered too much? Because this is a first order. First reading? First reading. Right.
First reading.
So if you can look at traffic and look at that. Thank you. Yeah, it's not
Well, this is on a
first reading, so you can go in and do it.
So, well, usually, as I've heard, Mr. Attorney, so let me play attorney for a second. Usually when we're reducing items, it's not substantive, so can we add all those changes? And if we have to pull anything off, usually you'll note that that is not usually substantive, right? So can we
Right.
add all those pieces that were noted here?
Correct.
I'm saying as amended right now
Right.
and introduced. If we then come back and hear something different and something has to be
Right,
pulled
so
off,
as amended works.
it's a
Correct.
non-substantive change.
But the
Would that be-
parking is separate.
I didn't know that belonged to this.
Parking on High Street that's just
Okay.
a separate.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just something I brought up. Okay. I'm like, that's
Is that, we asking to amend that in this?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just, it was
Not
just,
at all.
I was looking at this, I wanted to just bring it up.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, so this is a vote on the ordinance as amended,
Correct.
All right, this is a vote on the ordinance as amended. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is ordinance O-24-22, which is an ordinance to amend section 285 Stormwater Control of the Code of the Township of Montclair. I so move.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. I believe Mr. Lepola spoke to this with the new standards that are there and making sure this is in line with that. Any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is ordinance O-24-23, refunding bond ordinance providing for the refunding of certain outstanding bonds by the Township of Montclair, appropriating $13 million therefor, and authorizing the issuance of $13 million refunded bonds to the Township to finance the cost thereof. I so move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Lepola, would you like to speak to this? And then Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Sure. Sure, you can come up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have some old bonds in our books that we issued back
I'm
in
sorry,
2000.
can we, excuse me, I'm sorry. I can't hear well. Can we turn this please?
Is the mic on too?
Yes, light is on.
Good, good.
Now it's
Yeah.
quiet.
So Township has some old bonds in our books that we issued back in 2014. Specifically, some parking improvement bonds of about $10 million and school bonds of about $3 million. Those bonds now became callable. That means when the 10 years after when they become callable, that you can refund, which is similar to refinancing of the house if the interest rates are favorable. Then that means if we can get a better interest than we actually agreed to back in 2014. This authorization, this ordinance authorizes us to issue new bonds in place of the old bonds. No new monies, it's just the same bonds, refinancing. And the basic requirement, the minimum requirement is the savings should be at least 3% in interest savings. So we are preparing for the ability to sell those bonds if the market conditions are favorable, that we can get 3%.
What were the parking improvements? What was that one for?
Parking deck, I believe.
Parking deck, right?
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Mhm.
And at 3%, the estimated savings would be about $750,000?
If they
If they're-
realize, yes.
Any other questions, concerns, comments?
So
Councilwoman
just
Price
to
Abrams?
elaborate, so it has to be at least 3%, we would realize at least that much savings,
Yes.
Yes,
$750,000.
3%, yes.
That's the minimum amount of savings for
Yes.
doing this. So
Yeah.
right
We
now,
can't
you're
do it with that- we
just,
can't
we're
do it
authorizing you
without-
to
yeah.
explore the possibility.
Yes, we cannot do it with,
Right.
unless we get that kind of a saving. The state does not allow us.
Okay. And I know there's other numbers thrown in here, something about an $85,000 increase in the net debt, like the stuff at the bottom there. It's not important.
Yes.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Okay, next, do we have ones that people want held out for these resolutions? If you do, just call them out for me.
I just have a comment, so I don't know if you have to hold it.
Well, if you do, which one? I'll hold it.
So number 3.
3, okay. Any others?
And 9.
Okay, 9. Okay, any others? Going once? Okay. Without objection, I'll move items, new business items 1 through 10, excluding numbers 3 and 9. So this is moving items 1 through 10, excluding items 3 and 9. Any objection? They are so moved. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is Resolution R-24-126. This is a resolution awarding a fair and open contract. Angels Landscape, contractors, property maintenance and repair services. I so move.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
So I'm just wanting to clarify, as we will be retaining these services, that our vendors are aware of our ordinance and about the equipment that they use, that has to be compliant with our leaf blower
Yes.
ordinance. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is Resolution R-24-132, which is a resolution renewing a contract for 2024 annual tree removal contract for the tree removal contract, and I so move.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
I just want to know if the manager, maybe you can tell me, what is the criteria for, I mean, tree removal? I know trees of a certain age become, potentially dangerous, whatever. I just don't know. I know we have plantings, and there's a whole conversation around what some of those things need to look like, but in terms of how people may need to replace trees that are removed, et cetera, but
I
these are the
can
ones
get you
the
some
town wants to-
specifics, but we have people who actually bring to our attention that there are trees with problems. We also have to replace some of our trees. There's some, it all depends. So we work with our arborist, who then decides that if a tree has to come down. So, we spend anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a year on this tree program. As you are aware, and if you look in the budget, we did receive $1 million on an urban tree grant, which we'll be planting a lot more trees using, through that funding, which we haven't started yet. But I can get you all the specifics on.
it sounds like it's part of the healthy sort of ecosystem.
Yes, it is.
Some trees have to come down,
Yes,
and other
exactly.
trees obviously get planted, and
Yes,
we're
exactly.
robustly doing both.
Right,
But
and
I just didn't know,
Yes.
so, anyway,
And
thank
it's,
you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes, thank you. Next is Resolution R-24-134. Councilwoman Schlager, would you do the honors?
Of course, yes, thank you, Mayor. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the following persons for the amount set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair in the County of Essex that said invoices be, and they are hereby ordered paid, and that checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and hereinafter stated on this schedule attached here to and made part hereof. This bill list is dated May 23rd, the year of 2024, for the amount of $20,474,284.91. And I so move.
Second. Any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings?
Abstain.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock absent. Counselor Price Abrams?
I also had not had full opportunity because I was traveling, and I'm going to abstain.
Counselor Russo absent. Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Next, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Anyone who wishes to speak, please fill out the sign-in sheet, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening. Thank you, members of the council. I'm here to address an abandoned property at 10 Skytop Terrace. My name is Bernard Cooney. I'm a resident of Montclair. I was last before you at the March 12th meeting. I know Deputy Mayor Hurlock is not here tonight. He did help at the time, at least, in getting an initial response by the town. Just as a recap, this property has been abandoned for over 2 years. A neighbor of ours sadly passed away in the spring of 2022. His estate sold the property to its current owner in October of 2022, and it's been vacant ever since. As I described in the March meeting, it's an attractive nuisance. There's been no meaningful amount of work done on the property as it's steadily fallen into disrepair. Where it currently stands today, and this is after I appeared before you in March, there remains a dumpster outside. The roof is now gone. Some of the walls are gone. The driveway has been torn up. There's tarps, there's debris. The lawn hasn't been mowed in months, and it continues to be an issue. So I have two requests. One, just that the town take whatever appropriate steps under the code can be taken to enforce the rules for abandoned properties such as this. And then two, if we, the residents, and I'm joined by some fellow residents of Skytop Terrace, could get some information from the town. I've emailed code enforcement and Deputy Mayor Hurlock recently as well on the status of the town's efforts to get the owner to comply with the applicable rules that govern abandoned properties, because it's not clear that there's any movement towards rehabilitating the property. And if you see it now, you'll see there's no roof. I've supplied pictures to Deputy Mayor Hurlock and the town. So I, again, just want to bring that to the attention of the town, and I'm also seeking your guidance. If there's a point person offline you want to direct me to, or other residents of the street, happy to deal with them as opposed to bringing it to town council meetings, whatever the town suggests. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burr, I think that one probably is in your wheelhouse, and we've addressed this with Ms. DeVita before, has done some of these properties, right?
I heard you were coming. I have a file. I met with the code enforcement people late this afternoon. We're going to have another meeting tomorrow, and I will be your contact person on this.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right?
Thank you.
Great.
Hi, Irene Kostreva, and I'm on Skytop, and I live directly across from this property, and I have a picture to show you so that you can have a visual, if you don't mind, if I could approach. This is my view. That's the house and the dumpster and the porta-john that I look at every day. And it's right outside my window. And my neighbors next door get the same lovely view. Yeah. It's pretty bad. Yeah. And it's been like that for a while.
I have pictures.
Isn't there a way for the town to mow the lawn and to at least do that and then bill back the owner?
Yes.
We've done that in the past,
Yeah,
right?
we do that regularly with the abandoned.
Yeah.
They now have construction permits, which is not the same as an abandoned property, but there are compliance issues, and we'll be addressing those.
Sarah Avery, Montclair resident. On April 1st, I was the subject of a subpoena in connection with the Padmaja Rao versus Township of Montclair et al., docket number ESXL 612922, in which I was threatened with punishment for contempt of court should I fail to appear for my deposition and turn over my files consisting of 100% publicly available documents. I was commanded to produce documents such as investigation reports, audit correspondence, confidential documents, legal invoices, cyber attack documents. I've submitted over 4 dozen OPRA requests for which there is full transparency. Anyone can see what I asked for, township responses, and documents provided. Now that the lawsuit has been settled, just a few weeks after the subpoena was issued, one has to wonder, what was the town's strategy? Force us into bankruptcy? It has been reported that the cost to the community for this colossal error in judgment by this council is an obscene $3.5 million. To those offended by my tone, I hope that liens are filed on the homes of those who perpetrated this catastrophe upon our community to compensate us for their complete failure to honor their fiduciary responsibility, and to everyone that has failed to condemn this council, and to all the new sycophants, you will be held accountable for your actions.
Good evening, Diane Anglin, 158 Orange Road, Montclair, New Jersey. Thank you all for your service. I just wanted to make sure I say that if I'm not here for the next meeting, that's your last. Remind people that the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation is June 1st. I think the next weekend is out Montclair Pride Day, then it's Juneteenth. So there's a lot of celebrations going on in June, and we thank you for your support for all of them. And we just want to celebrate Montclair in every way we can. But I'm here today. I was here just to see what was going on. But then while I'm here, I was thinking, I had told Councilor Cummings and Councilor Terry this before. The Bay Street train station, the lobby is locked and has been locked for years. And when it's raining and when it's cold, you can't go in there. So I get it that, you know, there's issues with folks maybe loitering around there, but I would hope that we can come up with some plan, because for commuters, it's just really tough. And like when it's going to come back around where it's like daylight savings and it gets dark earlier and some people are waiting for a ride, there's young people, and that little lobby is helpful. So I don't know if you put somebody there or if you have maybe people that go around every once in a while just to clear the area if it seems like it's a problem, but it's just not fair to us commuters. So if we could do something about that, I'd appreciate it. And Councilor Price Abrams, we had talked about Porter Park and some kind of lighting. And I don't want to revisit or it come up again that we have daylight saving come when young people are walking from even Hillside. They get out at maybe like 4 o'clock or whatever. By the time they get to Porter Park, it's pitch black. So I know we have well, that's where I live, the park. So the people who take care of the park, they do a wonderful job. I know it would be tough if we had like path lights because of the lawnmowers and things like that. But if we could do something, and not that they have to be on all night, I don't want people hanging out in the park, but something for that like 4 o'clock to maybe 8 o'clock time to bring some light to that area, we'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for raising that. Mr. Manager, is there room within, I don't know, discretionary within the capital budget, you know, that we can talk about some kind of...
Call me tomorrow with specifics.
Well,
Ann?
specifically to
Not the
her
lighting,
question,
etc.
Ms. Angler's question about Bay Street.
Well, I wasn't on that one. I was on the lighting piece.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just letting them know. I had a conversation with the police, and their concern is that has become an encampment in the parking deck itself. And so they're moving people out of there constantly, and they feel that opening that up would just make it worse. So to your point, we addressed it. We reached out to Detective Young and others and said, listen, why can't we have this open? And he was like, Dave, if you go in there, they're there a lot, moving people out of the parking lot. He said, basically, I mean, there are beds there, things there. So to answer your question, the feeling was that essentially if we open up that deck, and unless we put an officer there to basically monitor the time, because I even said, well, we really just need it from 7 to 10. His response was, Dave, it's not that simple. 7 to 10, 4 to 7. That was the question. So I'll revisit with him to find out if there's anything different. Mr. LaPola, you can talk to Detective Young Deputy Chief Young, about the conversation, but he made it pretty clear that they're trying to eliminate people from being able to have access there, because what happens is they end up staying in there, whether or not commuters are there or not.
And I totally get it. So if we could just do something, I mean, those early mornings.
If you want to.
Off you out there in the rain, but.
Okay.
Told them that, not happening.
Good evening. Before I get to this more serious part of this, I want to thank you all for your service. I know how hard it is, though. I was at the Newark City Council for my work last night, and talk about thankless. That is thankless. Bill Harrison, 8 Harvard Street. I'm here to talk about Woodman Field. You entered a settlement with the Board of Education. The settlement did not say the Board of Education gets to break the law. It does not say the township cannot enforce the law when the Board of Education breaks the law. The settlement provided that work could continue in the normal course. In the normal course, the township issued a zoning permit, as it was required to do by the settlement. In the normal course, the neighbors appealed that zoning permit to the Board of Adjustment, as they're entitled to pursuant to the municipal land use law, NJSA 40:55D-72. Pursuant to the municipal land use law, section NJSA 40:55D-75, when that appeal was filed, all proceedings were stayed. That meant they had to stop construction then. They continued construction until this day. The Board of Adjustment heard the appeal. We determined it was filed in a timely manner, and that in fact, as we had informed the Board of Education in November and December, they had to apply to the board for a conditional use variance. Work should be stopped. You should authorize the manager, or the manager should do it. My brother played on the JV baseball team. My son played on the varsity baseball team. That field has needed to be repaired for decades. I'm not questioning that. If they had applied in November when they were told to apply, they would have been heard in January, would have been over and done with saving a lot of legal costs. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution, as did the members of the Board of Education, and to uphold the laws of this state. Municipal land use law is the law of this state. I would urge you to take action. It is obscene that they're continuing to work when the law says they must have stopped. Thank you, and thank you again for your service.
Thank you for yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, before you really walk away, I know we all, I don't know, speak for everybody. I felt a lot of frustration having talked to some of the people who are affected homeowners. I don't know where to go, Mr. LaPola, like Mr. Burr.
Well, the first thing I should say is that we follow advice of counsel, and the advice of counsel gave the township our direction and our walking.
Advice of counsel, not you.
No, our outside counsel that's handling the matter in the lawsuit, BOE versus the Township of Montclair. Additionally, I believe the residents have made a motion to intervene and are seeking relief through the courts. So it would be inappropriate for me at this time to comment any further, and it would be inappropriate for us to take any action at this time until those matters are determined by the court.
And
I would think the claim of the people, they're seeking to be interveners, and they don't have the ability to stop it I don't know what you're saying the process is.
Well, I mean, other than going through court, and one of the problems was the settlement was entered 2 days before their motion to intervene in the lawsuit was to be heard. The judge, which I do not understand at all, unilaterally dismissed their motion because this lawsuit was settled and there was nothing for them to intervene in, I guess was his rationale, but he could have deferred. But I think the litigation you need to be concerned about is by the neighbors. It is their rights that are being violated. The municipal land use law was set up to deal with this very situation, to recognize that there would be permits issued by municipalities that were improperly issued, give them the right to appeal, and to protect their rights, it says work must stop. There's an exception if the township says there's an emergency and it'll be health, safety risk, but they cannot unilaterally say we're proceeding, and it is their rights. I am more than willing to talk to your outside counsel and discuss this. I've been doing municipal land use law for 40 plus, getting close to 50 years now, and that's what I do for a living. And we and the town has been very good about enforcing the zoning ordinances against residents, but a governmental entity, if anything, should be held to a higher standard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Okay, with that, I will close public comment, and thank you very much. Madam Clerk, anything?
No, Mayor.
Mr. Manager?
Just two things, Mayor. One, next Wednesday, May 29th at 7 p.m., I will be hosting a information session on this year's budget for the public in this room. And the second thing is that we are finally reopening the Section 8 list after 17 years. That will be on June 20th at 8:30 a.m. People will log in online and can apply to be on the list. So we're very excited that after all these years, that is finally happening.
I appreciate that, because I know you said you had pressed for that. So that means that there are units that have been available, and now the people can be taken off the list, or is it adding people to a list?
It's not, what it is it makes you eligible to get a voucher to get your rent paid. So then a person becomes eligible, then they have to go find the apartment and go through this process for the apartment to be approved, and then they're allowed to get the subsidy or their whole rent paid, depends on what the apartment is. So it's not as, right now, we don't have any any program where the voucher goes with the unit as
Right.
opposed to the person.
But there's dollars available, and that's why you're taking new people.
We have dollars available.
Thank you for doing that.
Mr. Attorney?
Nothing this evening, Your Mayor.
Councilman Cummings?
We need to follow up discussion that we had about Cedar Avenue Firehouse over the next week or so that we can start getting moving on that, to make sure we have something concrete in place.
Mr. LaPola, so if you can, next time. Anything else? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Sure. I guess I'll use the opportunity to extend congratulations to those who will be taking the seats on this dais come July 1. And, congratulations, and wish you, Godspeed, I guess. But really, I'm here, as I've offered to anyone I spoke with. I believe any of us would be a resource if we could be helpful as others transition to these seats. And apart from the mayor-elect, who is a former councilwoman, everyone else will be new here. I have been among those new to this seat, and you had the benefit of not starting your term in COVID. But, it's auspicious, and there's an animated population, and that's really what we love about Montclair, is that there's diverse audiences on any topic, and people who care and are committed, and that's why this house is often full. So I just wanted to start with that, and I don't know, it was like 88 degrees in DC, so I guess we're moving towards summer.
Yeah, it's hot. Councilwoman Schlager?
No, I'm good, thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Terry.
I just want to mention that you heard President Anglin of the NAACP mention that the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation will have their annual event on the 1st of June. There'll be a parade and festival. Of course, everyone here is, if you want to march in the parade, make sure that you go on the website and take a look to sign up. And also, I want to express my congratulations to the individuals who, elected officials. It takes guts to run for some of these positions in town, and it's not just Montclair, any municipality around, I was told a long time ago that New Jersey politics is a contact sport. So you got to have guts, and you got to be able to be strong to get involved. So, congratulations. Wish them well, as you indicated. If there's anything I can do to assist, I will be there for them. Also, just one other thing, on the 31st, the night before the festival, there is an event at the Wally Choice Park House. There'll be a meet and greet event up to the festival if you want to stop past there. That'll be the night before the festival. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And certainly, as we thank everybody, I also want to extend a big thank you to Chairman Nguyen from the Planning Board for all his years of service. Really did a great job, and had the opportunity to serve with him as mayor when sitting there, and really just commend him on his years of service. And certainly, with everything going on with Lackawanna and otherwise, we should make sure they're not they have enough bodies to do their work. So we should be mindful of that. We should see what that is. I think they're short a couple. So, but that said, a lot of activities and events going on, I think, which was noted tonight for sure, and that's one of the reasons Montclair is so great. One of the many reasons, and certainly we encourage everybody to make sure they're out and enjoying everything that we have to offer here in town. I also will extend my congratulations to the incoming individuals who were elected. Certainly, kudos to all and congratulations. And we know that you will do good work ahead, and certainly we wish you well in that in those efforts. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.